Okay, and we are live. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Here with the Manchester United news for today. So let's get this show on the road, and let's get talking about the first thing we want to move on to. Really, is Facundo Pellistri about to go on loan for the rest of the season to Granada, basically at that here we go stage. So that is a deal that's about to be complete, and I wonder if we're going to see any kind of development at all, really moving towards the option to buy. Now, this option to buy is something we've seen in a lot of deals recently, especially involving younger players at this club. We have Alvaro Fernandez, Hannibal Mejbri. Could Facundo Pellistri be next to go on loan with the option to buy to foreign clubs? Is this another potential sale that we might get towards the end of the season? Let's find out. Look, I think these deals kind of suit us. I think they work in a nice kind of way where it's like if the player does well, we can sell them on for a profit. If they don't play well, then we come back and still got the player. We can bring them back in the team, try to move them on again in summer, and there's always those options. So I think Manchester United will be pretty happy if this is the case, but Facundo Pellistri certainly is set to go to Granada. That's a deal that's about to go through as well, and I would imagine this deal's been talked about behind the scenes because we've took Alvaro Fernandez back from Granada and we've brought him to United, obviously, to go to Benfica. So I think maybe this is kind of like an apology for taking a player out of your squad. Apologies for causing some confusion in your ranks as well. Maybe that's what they were thinking with this move. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know this. It does look like it's very, very, very close to being complete. So Facundo Pellistri making the loan move to Granada. Reece Bennett has gone as well to Stockport County. That's a deal that's been done today as well. So we are moving young players out on loan. This does seem to be a plan that we've been following up on. This does look to have been long-term planning from Manchester United. And whether this is coming from INEOS or whether this is the plan that was there in the first place, I guess time's going to find out. But it certainly is an interesting one. All sporting matters go through INEOS at the minute. So everything is kind of lining up that this might be an INEOS and Radcliffe plan, and this has been something they've been working on. Good evening to you as well, Chat Sport. Thanks for joining in there, man. Much appreciated, as always. But yeah, look, I have no problem with Pellistri going out on loan. But look, I'm asking you guys on that poll as well, what's your thoughts on Facundo Pellistri's potential, and what do you think we can get out of this guy as he develops into a mature player? Can he be a first teamer for us? Now, I would define a first teamer as someone who can reasonably start pretty much every match. Someone who would start 50% of matches across the season. He might be on the bench sometimes, he might start sometimes, might not be a nailed-on guaranteed starter every single week, but certainly someone who will play and start a lot of matches. Do we think he has that ability? Do we think he has that potential? Let me know your thoughts on this one. Is it a yes? Is it a no? Or do you think maybe he's a squad player at best? And look, there's nothing wrong with that. We need players to be squad players. Jarl is down there as well. Pellistri will not be a first team player with Ten Hag as coach. He does not use wingers. He uses inverted wingers. So Pellistri will not have a place. That's an interesting one. I do agree with that. I think he does want inverted wingers, and it's interesting. Pellistri's never been tried off the left-hand side. I thought if he was to come in, that would be something Ten Hag would try to do. But I guess time will find out with Facundo Pellistri. You comment in there as well from Kioro Peste is saying, great to see you, mate. I'm concerned we were letting our young players go, but there's nothing happening with incomings. Yeah, look, it's definitely something to be taking a note of. Thanks very much for joining in as well. Good to be back, of course, on the channel tonight. But yeah, look, I would definitely agree with that statement as well. I think when you're talking about a lot of these young players going, Hannibal, Fernandez, we've got Hugo, we've got Reece Bennett, there's talk of Dan Gore going out on loan very, very soon, and now we're looking at Pellistri potentially going on loan. We've had Van de Beek go on loan, Sancho on loan. That's 7 or 8 players going on loan in one window, no one really coming in. Now look, a lot of these players were not playing for us every single week. Some of them hadn't made any appearances whatsoever this season, but I do think we're maybe leaving ourselves kind of light in those areas. Pellistri has played and started matches this season. We might find ourselves in a position where it's only Amad Diallo and Anthony on that right-hand side. Anthony hasn't got a goal or assist all season, and Amad is only coming back from a bad injury. We don't know how long it's going to take him to be back up to his levels. Jeremy is down there as well. I agree with Jarl. We do not play a style which suits Pellistri. It's best for both parties that he's moved on. He's a good player. I think he's a pretty good player. I do. And I've always had the opinion that if he goes for, say, I don't know, 15, 20 million pounds, I don't think that's a bad deal at all. You know, he is a young player. He does have potential. He is experienced. He's got international caps. He's played at World Cups. He's played for Manchester United. You know, he could be a player who potentially could go for a decent bit of money. And I think other clubs would get good money for him as well. I think Man City have got more money for players who haven't played a minute of Premier League football, let alone have played at a World Cup. So I think definitely with Pellistri we could sell him on. And it's maybe not the worst idea. I think he's a good player. But I would question, is he better than Amad Diallo? Probably not. Is he going to be better than a potential new right winger we bring in? Maybe not. So maybe there are decisions to be made with Pellistri and his long-term future. Look, there's really good players coming through the academy at the minute. I did a video during the week. I'm pretty sure it'll be down below there as well. But we got some top quality talent come out who will be playing on that right-hand side. You're looking Shell, you see there. You're looking players of that ilk coming through. So Pellistri is one of those who might end up being moved on as well. Chatsport said, we are only in the FA Cup. It makes sense offloading now. Yeah, look, I don't think we need 25, 30 players to get us through to the end of the season. I think in the league we've got 18 or 19 matches. In the FA Cup we are 4th round now. So we would, if we go through against Newport, which we absolutely should, then you're into the 5th round. 5th round, quarterfinal, semi-final, final. So what's that? That's 4 matches. So you're maybe looking at playing 20 to 22 matches at best for the rest of the season. So I don't know if we're going to need a massive squad with Pellistri in there getting 5 minutes here and there, or Gore getting 5 minutes, Hannibal getting the occasional 15 minutes off the bench. So it's maybe not a bad idea. I know we need to cut down on our costs, cut down on those operating expenses, and that's why the likes of Reguilon have gone, because we don't need a third left back when Luke Shaw's here, Tyrell Malacia is coming back to fitness, Dalot can play there, so we don't need players like that there in the squad, just unnecessarily holding up spaces and adding to the wage bill. Because look, financially we're not in a good position. I talked about this on the United agenda last night. We're not in a good position financially. We made a big loss, £25 million in the last 3 months. So it makes a lot of sense for us to try to get that spending under control, to try get those the amount of wages down, because even though we've let the big earners go, our De Gea's and Ronaldo's, the wage bill's still gone up. So we got to cut it. We got to make necessary cuts as well. So look, it does make sense in that point of view. To me as well there. So Pellistri set to go to Granada until the rest of the season. Will he be a permanent sale? I guess that's going to be a summer transfer. If it does happen, it will be something to keep an eye out on as well. Lots of these young players have gone with obligations or options to buy to the club they're going to. So it'll be an interesting one. I don't know if Granada have the kind of money we would want for Pellistri, because I think we would want £20 million. Maybe that could be our starting price. I think anywhere between maybe 14 to 20 could be a decent price for Pellistri. I think we paid something like 8 or 9 million for him. So it's not the best bit of business, but I think it's probably what he's worth as a player, and probably realistic as to what we could get for him, because this is Manchester United. We're not good at selling players. We never ever have been. So that's going to be a concern for the likes of INEOS, and that's something that they're going to have to work on, of course, as well. But look, it's going to be an interesting couple of months. A lot of players coming out, a lot of players going. One player who definitely is going is Anthony Martial. So Martial's coming into the last 4.5 months or so of his contract. He will be out of contract 31st of June, of course. I can't see this guy being offered a deal at this point. And look, there seems to be a lot of intrigue and a lot of conflicting stories and narratives coming out between the club and Anthony Martial's agent. So Martial's agent supposedly was around Europe trying to find potential suitors for him, either in this window or the next window. And as well as that, Manchester United have had the opinion, and they've had the position basically that Anthony Martial is ill and cannot be included in the squad. There's talk of a hip injury as well, which is coming in from his agent. It does look like that might be legitimate, but I can't see Anthony Martial playing football for this club again. I cannot see him getting onto the pitch. I think he's going to stay here. He's going to take those big wages. I think it's about £200,000 a week. So plenty of money there. And I think he's just going to milk it right down to the very end of his contract and leave for free. It's a big disappointment. Anthony Martial should be right now one of the best players in world football, because that's the potential he had when we signed him, but he's not got to that level. And Truth be told, there's been glimpses, there's been patches where maybe he has been a genuine top class player, but it's a disappointment, all things considered. Nancy Martial will be leaving this club. So this is an interesting couple of months to see what's going to happen in that there deal. I think that's going to set the tone for what happens with other deals as well of that kind of caliber of player. You're looking at Varane, what's going to happen there with his contract. Will he be moved on? Will Casemiro be moved on? Harry Maguire, Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford. Lots of players and a lot of money there. And I think that there's going to have to be some big decisions made. Chatsport says we have 350 million on credit for players and they haven't paid outright for it. Yep, as I said, look, I said last night on United Agenda, really good shows as always there with Rebel, but I basically had said we've been buying players on the credit card and we've been paying Klarna as well for players for a really long time, and what we have now is just the result of a long time of very bad finances and very bad decision making. So that's going to be something that Radcliffe's going to have to solve. That's going to be an INEOS problem. That's something they've inherited from that previous regime, because we have to build a stadium, we have to build a training facility, we have to rebuild an entire team. It's going to be a difficult job. It really is. There's going to have to be some top accounting work done. Going to have to be a lot of money put in there as well. I think this money coming in from Radcliffe is going to make a difference. Of course I do. But some big decisions are going to have to be made on those top earning players, and it's going to have to be value and what we get out of them. Jeremy says, who is the last player we have signed that has notably improved in skill? Dare I say Bruno Fernandes, and I think that's about it. And even this season, I don't think Bruno's been at his best. But I think Bruno stands out as probably one of our best signings for a long time, and that's the reason why. I think maybe Martinez last season, I guess we'll find out how he's recovered from his surgery in the coming weeks and months, now that he is back. But I would say he is one of the few players who have genuinely improved since they come to the club, and more importantly, one of the few players who have improved us since they've come to the club as well. So big calls do have to be made. I completely understand this Martial situation. If we do choose to move him on, I'm completely for it. I've been for it for a very long time. You guys can go and watch back last season. I was saying we need to get rid of this guy. I still maintain that view, and I think we need it as well. Jarl says, even with the crazy money issues, we still have 200 to 400 million pounds to spend in the summer thanks to Radcliffe. Yes, we do, because the internal situation is not good with money, but now we've got an owner who actually wants to invest, and that's a big difference. Every other club, for the most part, have had owners who will say, okay, look, profits down, shirt sales maybe not quite where they were, things have been bad on the pitch, I'm going to put some money in to try balance this out. Glazers always just took the opinion of, yeah, you're on your own. So at least we've got that now. That's going to help us. That's going to fund a big transfer window as well. Jasport says Wamba has improved his ability to see a pass. Are we talking Wan-Bissaka, are we? Because I would like to touch on that Wan-Bissaka story from earlier today as well. I know some people on here are big fans of Wan-Bissaka. I came out today, Samuel Luckhurst, of all people, one of our favourite journalists here on the show, someone we have a lot of time for, obviously. And I'm sure the United fan base have a lot of time for Luckhurst. He basically put out a disparaging story today about Aaron Wan-Bissaka being a little bit of an introvert and not really looking to talk to the press. And I'm just sitting looking at these headlines thinking, honestly, who gives a shit? He doesn't want to talk to you, Samuel. Wow. I'm going to turn on this player because he's not talking to Samuel Luckhurst or he's not talking to the Sun. I really could not give a shit about that. I think the timing's interesting. I wonder if this is something to do, or if it's perhaps something that's come from Diogo Dalot's camp, or potential agent talks there. As you know, look, journalists are always talking to agent. This stuff happens all the time. But this morning we were told Dalot staying behind in training, trying to work on his long-range shooting to try to get more goals and be a more complete player. And then a couple of hours later, his rival really for that right-back spot is coming out and saying, oh, he doesn't talk to the media. He's a shy guy. He's a little bit quiet. I don't know. Url says the money issue is most likely going to be why the Glazers will not be around for that much longer. Radcliffe will most likely get the full club. He will do. From that logic as well. I would agree with that. Jarl. Stephanie says if you had to keep just one centre back out of Maguire, Lindelof, and Varane, who would I keep, or just remove all three? I think that's a good question, Steph. My preference would be this. This would be my ideal transformation for this centre back cohort that we have. And any manager in football could come in and work with what this plan would achieve. Now, whether or not it's achievable, I don't know. But I would look to move on Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof from that list. I would try to sign Raphael Varane to a reduced contract in terms of his wages to make it more affordable on the FFP. And then I would look to bring in two more centre backs. I would look to bring in Jared Brandtwaite and or Lenny Yoro with Tobito as well. So that could be my my preference there. I would say bring in two centre backs, let Maguire and Lindelof go, and if we can get Varane down on a cheaper contract, I would keep him. Do I think we can do that? I don't think so. I don't think Varane would take that deal. So we might end up in a situation where Harry Maguire, seemingly out of those players, would be most willing to have a reduced contract to stay at this club. Maybe that's what could happen there. But I do expect to see some big movement in that centre back area as well. But look, that's a really good question there from Stephanie. Everybody, let me know your thoughts down below down there as well. Would be appreciated on that one. What would you guys do with the centre backs? Would you move on Varane, Lindelof or Harry Maguire? Let me know down below. Jarl is saying as well, I think I would keep Maguire. He has been the informed defender, but I would like to remove all three from the club. Della has had more shots than the striker. Chatsport said Harry I would keep. I think, yeah, look, I think Maguire's had a pretty good season, all things considered. I really do, but it's one of those ones, guys. It really is. Okay, so I want to move on quickly to some of Sir Jim's big plans. That's another story that we can get talking about as well. Look, we know that in recent days there's been all this talk about a new training facility. I think that's a really interesting one because Carrington, by all accounts, is just not fit for purpose anymore. It's just not. It's not a modern training facility, and Jim's gonna have a lot of work to do on that one. I think it's an interesting thought, and an interesting little side note that I will put out there is that INEOS actually own the rights to some natural gas deposits which are found underneath the existing Carrington location. So perhaps you could see a situation. Now, look, this is purely hypothetical. This is completely hypothetical, but perhaps you could see a situation where INEOS will look to move out of Carrington, pay for the new stadium, and then pay for the new training facilities, and then pay themselves back in many ways by taking that natural gas and seeing what they can do with that there. Maybe that's something that could happen. That would be something to watch out for. Jeremy says I would keep Maguire too. At least he can defend corners. Yeah, look, I think in Maguire and Varane you have two good box defenders who are good at winning headers and stuff. So it all depends on what you can get out of them. I think you have to look at cost versus performance. I think Varane would need to take a reduced contract. I don't think any of those three players are going to be first choice next season. I would expect to see an overhaul of the centre-back department. I think we need it, and we've needed it for a while. And I think that's going to help us in terms of what we're looking to do with higher lines, looking in terms of playing out from the back. And it's going to be really important to us in that long term as well. So these are things we need to work on. I feel really build a solid backline. That's what I think is going to be key. Look, we know we lack goals, but I think if you build a proper backline that's going to last for a good while, then that's a good start. And I think we build from the back. We move from centre backs. You maybe look at a right back in this window, then you look at midfield, and then you try to bring in maybe another attacking player. And I think overall, the issue that we do have at this minute in time, whilst we lack gold, I'm not 100% convinced that completely spending hundreds of millions overhauling the attack is going to get us more goals. I think we need to have a more solid base, a more secure base, play higher up the pitch, and that's going to give a smaller distance to get the ball from the goalkeeper to the back line into the midfield, and then the midfield into the strikers. At the minute, we're kind of playing across the full pitch. We want to play football in the opponent's half. That has to be the plan there with that there one. Jarl says, I think Radcliffe under contract for Carrington runs out this year to build a new training field will take 2 to 3 years. Also, fracking in England cannot be done, so I think that's a non-story. It might be, yeah, look, I don't know, is fracking the only way you can get gas? Maybe. I wouldn't claim to be an expert about that. I'd seen a couple of people putting that sort of conjecture out there. I thought I would just touch on it as well. Big ups on those 16 likes as well, guys. Keep dropping likes on the video as well. One player I would like to have a touch on as well, a player I would like to avoid, is Matthias de Ligt. Now, if you had told me 5 years ago that I'd be saying here, do not be signing Matthias de Ligt for Manchester United, I probably would have not believed you. But here we are, and we're having this conversation. I think Matthias de Ligt is the exact type of player we would have signed if INEOS did not come in, if it was still Arnold and John Murda backing Ten Hag and giving him whatever players he wanted. So I think Matthias de Ligt is a player I want to stay away from. I think, yeah, look, there's a good player there, a good leader there, good overall defender, but I worry about the injury record. I worry about the expenses. I just don't think it's the option there. Daniel is down there as well. Good to see you, Daniel. Thanks for joining in there. Much appreciated. But yeah, look, I don't think Matthias de Ligt is the answer. I think players with a little bit more speed, a little bit more agility will be what we're after in the long kind of term as well. Injuries are a big one. He's a very, very injury-prone player, and the reason why we need to sign a new right centre-back is because we can't rely on Varane to stay fit for longer than 3 or 4 matches in a row, because he cannot play 3 matches a week. He just can't do it at this point. Even playing 2 matches a week has been difficult for him at times as well. Jarl says there's a similar story that Radcliffe will frack under Old Trafford. That's a non-story, but it is funny. Yeah, I don't think we're going to do that one either. Jasper said United could have paid 100 million for him. Yeah, look, that's the exact deal we would have done. Is go there and say let's get Matthias de Ligt. That'll solve those centre back issues and help us with the defensive stuff. So I want to see us looking at other profiles. I want to see us looking at other leagues. I completely get shopping Premier League as well. We had this conversation before with Radcliffe. Something he would be looking to do is looking towards the English pyramid as our source of signings. I think that's an interesting one. And that's probably where Jared Brantwaite comes in. And look, Everton's financial difficulties, they might be forced to sell one of Amadou Onana, or they might be forced to sell even a Jared Brantwaite as well. I would like to pull up a quick story as well. Now, this is one that is definitely very interesting. And it kind of gets me excited as well, to tell the truth. So it's an interesting story. 17-year-old Italian wonder kid Simeone Pafundi is joining INEOS-owned Swiss club Lausanne, which will be a Manchester United sister club, potentially. From Serie A side Udinese, Pafundi is set to join them on loan with the option to buy for 15 million euros. It's interesting because Lausanne sit 10th in the Swiss Super League out of 12 teams, and he's leaving Udinese, who are currently sitting 15th in Serie A. So he's leaving a top-flight Italian club to go play for a team in the Swiss league. Now, both are struggling this season for form, but this screams to me of a player who's going to go and play in Switzerland, prove his trade, play some first-team football, and get moved on to Nice, and then from Nice play there for a year or two, and then maybe end up in Manchester United. And that's an interesting thing we're seeing. Girona in La Liga are doing really well this season, and they're a City-owned team. They're part of the City Football Group, and they're really turning things up in that league this year. And you will not be surprised to see loads of players coming between City and them for the rest in the next couple of seasons as well. So this sort of feeder club, this sort of sister club under the INEOS umbrella could be a very, very interesting story to keep an eye on. This might be the first of what could be a line of players coming through that kind of system, going to Switzerland for experience, or going to Nice for experience, and then ending up at Manchester United. It does make sense in that way, and we could see our own young players go out to Nice or go to Switzerland on loan as well in the future. So things to keep an eye out on for sure. What do we got down here as well? Steph is saying, heard INEOS want to get summer transfer business done by July, which will make sense. We need to have players playing a full pre-season. Absolutely, we do, Steph. Absolutely. Complete pre-seasons are needed. We can't be missing out on that there, especially when you're trying to do a big rebuild. And look, this is going to be an awkward summer as well. I think there's a European Championship this year as well, so that's going to impact the transfer window. We want to get players. Ideally, you want to have your deals close to being done in May, and then the players can go to the European Championships if they're going, do a medical whenever they leave the tournament, sign for the club, take a 2-week holiday, go on pre-season in July. That has to be the plan there. Daniel says, would I rather have Tobito or Ikatura? I'd probably take DeVito there. Chat Sports said if Forest need to sell, I would take Sangara. If Forest need to sell, I'd be taking Morgan Gibbs White, honestly. I think there's a hell of a player in there as well. I really, really do. And I think that could be an interesting one as well. Jarl says, I see this wonder kid coming to Nice or United in a year or two. Yeah, I think you're looking at the start of an interesting development pyramid of sorts there, with each club kind of fitting into one another as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. Obviously, look, it's all conjecture at this moment in time. It's not done, but certainly does it raise some interesting possibilities and propositions that we could see in the future, and one definitely to keep an eye out on. Just in relation to our poll question of today as well, Facundo Pellistri, can he be a first team player for Manchester United? So that's kind of being involved in what I would call the 18, maybe being matchday player on the bench, coming on for 30 minutes, starting maybe 4 matches a month, something like that there. Can he be a player of that level for this club? Yes, people are saying is 44%, no is 40%, and 16% think he is a squad player at best. I think he needs more minutes, and I think maybe he'll get that at Granada. I don't know. I think it does kind of scream to me like a deal where Granada have maybe asked for Pellistri on loan because we have recalled Alvaro Fernandez from them, but he wasn't really playing for them either. I think Fernandez played something like 30% of the minutes available. But Granada are in a relegation fight in La Liga at the minute. They're 19th position. Obviously, it's a bottom 3 system there as well. So Granada need a turnaround. I don't know if this is kind of potential destination for our young players, but I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully he plays, hopefully he gets some minutes, and hopefully he can make a difference to their season. And either he comes back to us a better player, or he comes back to us a more sellable player as well. That has to be the plan. Chatsport said, any news on Mason Mount? There could be news on Mason Mount. I believe I've seen something as well. Because we're not playing for a while, pretty much everyone who's been injured will be back by the time we get to that match against Newport County. Let me just double check. There was something I seen about Mount's injury as well. He should be back fairly soon as well. This is so this is confirmed by Eric Ten Hag in his last press conference. He had said that in mid-January, Mount, Casemiro, Martinez, Malacia and Maguire will be expected to return to training. I think we've seen Casemiro and Martinez come back into it in the last match, and I would expect to see Mount and I would expect to see Malacia, players like that, available for selection. They might be in the squad to play Newport County. That'll got a nice match to ease them back into things as well. Big ups on those likes as well on the video, guys. We're up to 17. Can we get up to the 20 like mark as well? That would be really appreciated as well. Daniel says we need the money. That's why he's going. Look, I'm not surprised either, and I think it's an interesting point that was raised by Chat Sport as well there, that with Facundo Pellistri going, we don't need as big of a squad for the rest of the season because we won't have as many matches. No European football, of course. If you go out of the FA Cup, then against Newport County, as unlikely as it would be, we would find ourselves only having around about 19 matches left in the entire season at that point as well. So that's a big one. Chatsport says Ten Hag is favouring Ahmad over Facundo at the minute, needs to decide, but start playing Ahmad till the end of the season. Yeah, I would agree with that as well, Steph. I think I'm fine for him having players he prefers. I think there's a better player in Amad Diallo than there is in Facundo Pellistri, but I think let's give Amad the opportunity and find out. I know he was ill for the last match, I think against Wigan, so I would like to see him brought back into the team. I would like to see him brought in for that Newport County match. That should be a match he absolutely should be starting, and hopefully we can get some of the younger players involved in that match as well. Wouldn't mind seeing some of Garnacho and Ahmad, maybe get Martinez back in for a start, get Mount in for a start. Maybe if Dan Gore is still here, but there is talk about Dan Gore going on loan, so plenty of players who could come into that match. I think the kind of situation of it and the fact we won't have played for a while means he might go stronger in that one. But yeah, look, I'm sure it'll be an interesting match. That's not going to be for a while anyway. We are not back in action for another 9 days, so that might be good news to a lot of people. United can't ruin our weekends this week, so I'm sure we'll be enjoying the other football anyway as things go along. But I wouldn't mind playing Hoyland in that match. Hoyland's hat-trick against Newport would go down quite nicely, build upon his form. I'm sure he would be feeling good about that as well. But look, honestly, I think it's very important that we do well in this FA Cup, because I think we need that kind of distraction. I can't see us getting into top four this season, even with players coming back. I just think that we're too far behind. I think the gaps are too big in the squad, and the issues we're having probably don't get solved by the players coming back either. I don't think having Casemiro Martinez back in the team is going to add too much by way of chance creation at the top end of the pitch. Look, we might have more possession, we might have better line breaking abilities and capabilities, but really, I do think that we are still missing quite a lot of players in the grand scheme of things for that there. So any more thoughts, guys, make sure to drop them in down below as well. Some other stuff I do want to go across on today's show. Some of it would be quite interesting as well. There was something there. I think Onana's had a poor match in the African Cup of Nations as well. What have we got here? There was the non-story, I guess, about Diogo Dalot shooting and training. I'm not really too bothered with that there one. But an interesting one as well we want to get talking about is Dan Gore potentially going on loan to Port Vale. And this has been announced by Fabrizio Romano. So Dan Gore, a player who we know was involved heavily in the preseason. He looks to be a player making that jump from the academy system into the first team. I think there's a good little player in Dan Gore. I think he's maybe not at the Manu level, but I think there's definitely a player in Dan Gore, and one that we can enjoy in the years to come if he ends up making it up here. But Port Vale, probably not a bad loan for him, in fairness. I think it would be kind of like Joe Hugel when he went to Burton Albion. Joe Hugel, we look at the levels of Burton, but then we say, look, these guys, their striker scored 7 goals in the last 4 seasons. He's going to play it. He scored already in the first match that he's played for them. So he's Dan Gore going to Port Vale. They're 15th in League One. I would expect him to get some minutes there. I would. And yeah, look, they're probably not going to be a relegation scrap either this season. They seem to be in a decent position, all things considered. Thanks very much for those 18 likes as well. Chatsport says FA Cup is a great cup. The fourth spot trophy is invincible in a trophy cabinet. I mean, yeah, that's also true. Jarl says Bennett is going on loan to Stockport. Yes, he is. Reece Bennett has joined Stockport on loan today as well. So that's a lot of young players going out on loan. Bennett, Gore, Hannibal, Pellistri, Fernandez have all gone on loan in this window. I think there's more. Max Odiyedi has gone as well. I think Forest Green. Thankfully, Troy Deeney was sacked by them as well, so he's not going to get his hands on a United youth product. That's definitely a good and positive thing in that their sense. And I think there's been other loans as well, Donny and Sancho as well. But certainly, look, a lot of the academy lads do seem to be going on loan. We would ask why they didn't get to go on loan last season. I think some of them are potentially at that level where they need first team football to move on to that next point in their career. I think the best indication for a player going to have a successful time at United is if they're playing above their level. So if you're 16 and you're playing in the under 18s, that's really good. If you're 17 or 18 playing for the under 21s, that's really good. But then it gets to a point where you're maybe 18 or 19. Under 21s football's not quite doing it for you anymore. You're not quite getting the relevant experience. Then you need that loan. And for a lot of players, they've kind of reached that point. I think we've had a habit in recent years of not getting good enough loans for some of these players. You know, we would look at Axel Tuanzebe as one who is maybe stuck in the academy for too long, Ted Mengi, Tahith Chong, players like that. So it's good to see that we're getting loan deals sorted for these players. Hopefully they'll go on and have a good time. Hopefully they'll be successful as well. Stephanie says trophies are the only currency that matters in football sense. Yeah, definitely. And I think when we look at what INEOS have been saying across their initial meetings with Manchester United employees, looking at the fans, looking at Must as well, they seem to be very much focused towards trophies. They've been saying fourth place isn't good enough. That's not what we want. We're looking trophies. This isn't going to be run as a business. We want to put success on the pitch first, after success off the pitch as well. So that's an interesting one to be looking out for. Stephanie says, any update on Tyrell Malacia? I think there was something about Malacia as well, Steph. I did see it coming through earlier on. Let me just quickly have a double check for you as well. There was something I did want to talk about on Malacia. I think he was expected to come back mid-January. I'm not too sure what the latest on the injury is, but he hasn't kicked the ball all season, Malacia. Rosat said he's back next week. I would expect to see him back maybe by the end of January, maybe floating about the squad, but I don't think there's anything in terms of an overly recent update on that there sense as well. But I mean, Luke Shaw should be back for the next match. He would have been in for the Tottenham match, but he felt a little bit off in the warm up, I think. Chatsport said Malacia moving on. I don't think he's going to be moving on as well. What have I got here? Ten Hag was talking on the 12th of January. Mason Mount will take a little bit longer. Malacia as well. Victor Lindelof is back, but it will be the next few weeks for Victor. So I think this was in relation to when he was discussing Martinez and Casemiro coming back. So if they're going to take a little bit longer, and that was on the 12th, so that was a week ago today, you probably would look at maybe next week, that 2-week gap, and they could be back in the team, or at least back in the squad to play Newport County. Ideally, look, they come back into the team. What you would get is maybe being 2 or 3 goals up at halftime against Newport. Then you can put Mount or Malacia on, get them some minutes into their legs, build up their fitness. But we've got some interesting matches coming up. Look, we're playing West Ham, we play Wolves, I think we play City, and then maybe Liverpool at Old Trafford as well in the coming weeks as well. So definitely big matches on the horizon as well. And just in terms of the poll that we were asking as well on Facundo Pellistri now, we were asking, will Pellistri be a first-team player for Manchester United? What's the thoughts on this here one? What is going to happen with that there? So, yes is 47%. 47% of you guys at the minute reckon he can be involved in the first team and be a regular first-team player for us. We have 20% are saying he's a squad-level player at best, and we have 34% of people saying no, he's just not good enough. Rosat is saying, how did he get injured that long? Malacia ended up with surgery on his knee during the summer. I think it was an issue he picked up pretty early in pre-season. He hasn't kicked the ball since last season for us. Rosat said we need a left back. I wouldn't mind a left back. I think we need a right back more at the minute. But yeah, look, I think you have a good point there as well. Steph says, how does it work with loans? Can we recall if there's an injury crisis? We can. I mean, we'll have to pay a little bit there, but I think the big thing is with these loans, we're hopefully not going to need too many players for the rest of the season. We're talking 18 or 19 league matches. We've got at most, if we make it all the way to the FA Cup final, 5 matches, 6 matches at best as well. So yeah, look, I'd be pretty confident with that. Now McKeever's down there. Pellistri has had enough chances and done very little to get him gone. I don't mind Pellistri. I think there's a better player in Amad Diallo, and I'd look to play him personally. Give him the opportunity. I think he's better than Anthony. And I think, yeah, look, he probably fits what the manager wants more with an inverted winger. I would go with that there one. Obviously, look, Amad can also play inside as well. It's a big benefit of having him about the place. Jarl is saying as well, it's a little similar what happened to Leitch. Yeah, it is. Bath Time is in there as well. Big ups, great show last night. No worries, man. Thanks very much for having me on the channel as well. Really enjoyed the show. What else we got here? Rajat, we can't rely on Malacia too much. He was injured for a long time, and we can't rely on Luke Shaw. I think between Shaw, I think between Malacia, and I think between Dallo able to fill in there at left back, you're probably fine, honestly, because Wan-Bissaka doesn't pick up a lot of injuries. Martinez can play their worst case scenario, so that's why Reguilon left. That's why Alvaro Fernandez is gone as well. Liman's in the chat as well. Good to see you as well. We want Neto. I haven't seen too much in Pedro Neto. I think he's a good player. I haven't seen too much in by ways of a concrete link at the minute. I'll just quickly update this to make sure I haven't missed out on anything, but I haven't seen too much in terms of concrete links to Pedro Neto. I think he's a good player. The injury issues are there with him as well. He would be an expensive signing. I think we need a right winger more than we need a left winger, because we still despite the fact we've bought Di Maria and Henrik Mkhitaryan and Sancho and Anthony and Pellistri and Ahmad, we've not got anyone on the right hand side who's really been perfect, or has been the best fit for us either. Jarl says Shaw is broken. I should be sold if it's possible. I don't know. I still think the quality we get from Luke Shaw is really good. I would give it another season personally, but you could be looking at a Varane type situation where you have a player who's really, really good when he's available, but he's just not available often enough. Chatsport says, "Get me Jared Bowen." I mean, I like Bowen. I don't think he's what we need. I think maybe he's potentially a little bit older than what we need. I think what we need is someone who's going to be a high volume dribbler in that kind of sense and be successful with that there and help to stretch teams, but also provide chances as well. And I think someone like a Nico Williams or a Bakayoko could be a good option. Matthias Sula would be another good one if we want to look at that. If you want to look internally at Premier League, maybe Elisa, but Elisa comes with his own injury problems. So there's a lot of considerations we have to be looking at as well. Bath Time says Dan James was the best right winger we've brought. It's hard to deny that either, man. It really is. Yeah, I mean, you you might be on something there. Look, maybe we play. Maybe we end up playing him at Diallo, and he just ends up making it into the first team and staying there. I'm not sure. I think there's good players coming through the academy can play there. Shelley's he's one to keep an eye out on, but yeah, he's probably a little bit further behind in terms of his age and stuff. Rajat goes, how about Eze from Crystal Palace? I mean, Eze is a good player as well. I think he's more inside than what we would want, but I mean, there's a really good player in Eze. But yeah, look, I think Williams will be a good option for us. Obviously, he's right-footed. I think Bakayoko is a really good option from PSV. Depends on affordability as well. Elisa is another one. Matthias Sula is potentially someone you could look at in that sense as well. So look, there is a decent right-wing market coming out at the minute. It's about getting the right player again as well. So it is. It is. Rajat says he can play right wing. Nico Williams just signing a new contract, 90 million buyout. Yeah, it's not looking good for that one. I think Bakayoko could be a good shot. But it's about whether or not we want to go big on another Eredivisie player. I'm not too sure if we've been burned too badly with that there one as well. But I think there is some options up there. It will be interesting to see what we do. Do we go for Elisa, more proven in the Premier League, but he's got those injury concerns? I'm not sure. I think we're up to 19 likes as well, guys. Can we get one more and get up to 20? Would be really appreciated if we could do that as well. And guys, make sure to check out the video that dropped yesterday as well on the Youth Academy. There will be another one up tomorrow as well. It's going to be Sir Jim Radcliffe's plans for the top earner players at this club. Is going to keep a sell. What's he going to do with them as well? So that's going to be one. Keep an eye out for whenever it drops. Should drop tomorrow, all being well. So I think that's going to be my plan for tomorrow, is just to finish that video off, get it uploaded. I think thumbnail's done for it, thankfully, so that shouldn't be too much of a concern to get the rest of that done as well. Make sure to keep an eye out for that one dropping. Any more thoughts, make sure to get them in down below. Just in terms of our poll question tonight, can Pellistri be a first team player for us? Yes is 47%. Squad player at best is 19%, and 33% of people are saying no. So it's quite divided. I think the low levels on that right wing would give him an opportunity. It's whether or not we're going to be playing with a right-footed right winger, if that's what Ten Hag's going to want, or if that's what whoever replaces Ten Hag's going to want, depending on what happens with the manager situation. I think a lot's up in the air. I do think a lot's up in the air, but it's interesting that out of all the right wingers, Amad Diallo is the one to stay over Facundo Pellistri, even though he hasn't had the minutes, even though he hasn't had the first team experience so far that Pellistri has enjoyed this season. So definitely one to keep an eye out on. I think Amad, look, to me, he's a better player, but I mean, it could go either way. It really could. It really could. 37 votes in that poll as well. Stephanie says we just don't seem to fish anymore in the lower leagues around Europe. Would like to see us discovering gems. Plus South America. Yeah, I mean, there's an absolute glut of top players coming through Brazil and Argentina and the South American countries. They always seem to end up in Portugal on their way to Europe. It tends to be Benfica getting their way with those players and always seeming to get the joy out of it. So definitely one to be watching out for there as well. Will Benfica manage to sign a bunch of players from that region of the world? Because that's their business model. Bring in young players from South America, give them a chance in the Portuguese league, and typically they do well because Benfica scout well, and then they sell them on for a big profit, and that's how they run themselves. It's a business model that works. It works for them. It works for a lot of other clubs out there as well, and maybe it's something we need to be keeping an eye out on. Rajako's play McNeil there. It seems that he can play right wing. Are we talking Charlie McNeil? I'm not too sure. I mean, Charlie McNeil is a striker, really. That would be his best position, or the first position he'd probably choose for himself as well. But, yeah, look, I think right wing's an interesting one, what's going to happen there as well. Let me just check one thing, I think. There's maybe some more updates here on Dan Gore potentially going on loan. Think that's gonna be pretty much a done deal. Will be interesting to see what happens with Ivan Toney this weekend as well, coming back from Brentford. I know we're probably going to look for a more experienced striker as well. So maybe Ivan Toney, if he does well, maybe that's a potential summer move. I don't know. I feel like it's an expensive one to make, regardless. But I think you want different properties and you want different profiles in those kind of areas. So whether or not that's going to be like an Ivan Toney, because there was talk about Benjamin Sesko having a £43 million buyout clause. And if you really wanted, you could get Sesko in and really just fill out your the wide areas for the foreseeable future. Chasport says McNeil has more goals than Anthony. I'm not surprised either as well. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen with Anthony. Like I really don't. I think he could go. I do think he could go. Because really, if Ten Hag's not here, I don't see any other manager protecting him in the way Anthony's been protected. I don't see any other manager sticking up for him and continually playing him despite the bad form. I wouldn't mind seeing him played on the left-hand side just as an experiment to see how that would go, but I'm not too sure. There is part of me thinks maybe he lacks the athleticism or the speed or physicality that he does need in order to actually make it in that there sense. Jeremy says Onana has more goals than Anthony. I mean, Anthony's got no goals, no assists this season. Like, if Stephen Welsh is down there, we're a finished club now. Nothing will change. I couldn't care less. I think we'll come back into it. I think we're looking at a potential decent time for the club. Chat Sports asking the real question: who buys Anthony? I have absolutely no idea. Maybe Todd Bowley fancies them. I don't know. He does like signing a right winger. Maybe he wants Anthony. Who knows? Who knows what the options could be if we try to move Anthony on as well. Look, guys, I think we're going to leave the stream here. Just have some things I need to get done here tonight. So thanks so much for joining in tonight as well. We'll be live again tomorrow at the earlier time, probably around 5 o'clock if you guys want to tune in then. And I should have a video up as well tomorrow afternoon, hopefully about 1 or 2. So definitely one to drop pretty soon as well. So make sure to keep an eye out for that stuff. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Really do appreciate everyone joining in. Have a good Friday night. Have a good Saturday. And I'll catch everyone in the next one.